One of the things we have to do is we have to market all our programs. One of our programs is what we call the 8A program. 8A, we have the small disadvantaged business, and we have the hub zone advantage that we'll talk about. The 8A program is to promote business development for small business concerns, owned and controlled by socially and economically disadvantaged individuals. If you've been in business for 2 years, and you can prove it with your tax returns and show us revenues on your primary NAICS code, you meet one of the requirements. The other is the 2-year waiver eligibility, which has 5 conditions that must be met. U.S. citizen, 51% ownership, 100% of your time is to run that business, and you are determined by SBA to be socially and economically disadvantaged. These are some of the groups that we consider socially disadvantaged. African American, Asians, Hispanics, Native Americans, and subcontinent Asian Americans. To be economically disadvantaged, you got to show us that you were denied credit based upon these reasons or one of these reasons. They just don't want to loan you any money. They just don't like you. They don't loan to your group. There have been instances of that. But if you fall in one of these, then you have you can show us by the evidence that you fall in this criteria, you may be eligible to be an 8A contractor. Again, the access to capital, credit, and markets, you've been disadvantaged. Your net worth cannot exceed $250,000, and that does include the equity in your residence. And right now, that's probably been diminished somewhat over the last couple of years, so it's not 250 anymore. Your net worth minus your equity minus the equity in the business equals your adjusted net worth. And that's the amount that cannot exceed the $250,000. What do you get? You have to apply for it. You can apply online, SBA.gov. It's an application process. They will take your application and process it. Once you get in the program, I think it's 7 years or 9 years? 9 years that you can be in the program. Now, if your net worth goes up substantially in that 9 years, you might be kicked out because you're doing too well, and you really don't need us anymore. Now, the 8A program, a lot of people think that once I get in the program, then the government's going to give me contracts. That's not the case. We don't guarantee you a contract. We don't guarantee you anything. All we're going to say is that if an opportunity arises within the government and you meet the bill, we're going to ask you to do the job. But you're still required to go out and do your own marketing and make your firm work in the meantime. It does give you an advantage to some of the contracts that the government issues because you are an 8A firm, because these large prime contractors such as Boeing and Lockheed Martin, they have to fulfill a requirement. 7% of their contracts have to be subbed out to small businesses. And they're going to give priority to 8A firms and hub zone firms, minority firms, veteran-owned firms, disabled veteran firms, hub zone businesses, and the more checks they can put on that form, the better off they are, and the more chances that you have of getting that contract. One of our small business success stories up in Cocoa Beach is a Hispanic lady who was a disabled veteran who had her business in the hub zone. She became an 8A contractor. She's not an 8A anymore because she's making millions of dollars. But you don't think she didn't get an opportunity to fulfill some contracts? They were all, hey, we checked all these boxes, and they were hiring them. So when you apply and you register for government contracting, and that's on ccr.gov. It's the Central Contractor Registration. Be sure you go there and register. Put your business in there, check all the boxes that you can check, That registration is a database where the prime contractors and other people who do business with the government go to and seek out businesses that can meet certain qualifications for doing certain jobs. I remember when I went to Fort Pierce, one of the things I had to do was buy some office furniture. So I go to the ccr.org, find a business locally in Fort Pierce that does business with the government, registered the business, and lo and behold, that's where I bought the furniture. And we encourage anybody, if you're got a contract that you're subbing out part of, go there and find someone to do the work. It's to your advantage. But you've got to be certified by SBA. You can apply at this address. I did it on a slideshow so you can see it better. I could stand up here and read you all these phone numbers and websites, and you'd be sitting there going, did I get it down right or whatever. Let me, at this point, we do have a website. It's called Small Business 3, and that's small business written out, and it's the number 3.com. That website has what we call our resource guide. And when you go to that website, there'll be 50 or 60 entries. You can click on South Florida, and it will take you to the resources, and it will show you all our programs. It will capitalize all our resource partners, the chambers, all our programs. It even has the websites. All you have to do is click on it. It'll take you right to it. It'll talk about 8A. It'll talk about hub zones. It talks about our loan programs. It talks about the SBDCs, SCORE, women's business centers, all the other things that are necessary for you to find information about. Once you apply, it's going to be reviewed. You've got 15 days for us to review it. And that 15 days is make sure you send everything in. Then we have to make a determination within 10 days of that as to whether or not it's complete, and then within 90 days you will be advised whether or not you've been accepted. You can seek reconsideration if declined. If you're declined after appeal, you've got to wait 12 months to apply again. The contract process is SBA does aggressive marketing for you so that you can get contracts, but we can't guarantee that you're going to get anything. So again, don't think just because you get in the program you're guaranteed success, because it's not. It's something you have to deal with. You have to make a relationship with these contractors and these agencies. Again, we talk about the nature of contracts. Some of them are set-asides. Some of them are competitive. You may have to bid and get that competitive contract. The resource guide does cover all this information in it, so a lot of it I'm going to skip through real quick. But when you're marketing your program, you've got to identify who buys your product. You need to know that. You need to register. You need to know your NAICS code. How many of you fill out a tax return every year? Look at all the tax cheats. We just took a picture of all those that didn't raise their hand. We're sending that to Internal Revenue Service tomorrow, so y'all can be audited. I'm teasing. We're not going to do that. How many of you have your accountant tell you, don't make so much money, put it away here, there, and the other, get your profits down so you don't have to pay taxes? I'm just teasing about IRS. Okay. What I was going to say is that has a two-edged sword to it, because you listen to some accountants that tell you to take this money so you don't have to pay taxes on it, but then you take those tax returns to the bank, and the bank says, we didn't make any money, so we can't loan you any money. And then you say, well, I really made more than that. And the bank is going, okay, can you prove that, and why is it different than what you got now? So be careful when your accountant or your bookkeeper says this is what you can do to avoid the tax. There's a method in avoiding tax and a method in getting what you and having to pay what you really have to pay. There's a difference, but don't cheat the government. The difference between the small disadvantaged business and the 8A program, you can become an SDB without being in business for 2 years. personal net worth is $750,000, but everything else remains the same. So the only real difference is the net worth and the time in business. What do you get by being a small disadvantaged business? You get a 10% price evaluation adjustment. What that means is if you and someone else bid on a contract and you're an SDB, or if you're in a hub zone and they are not, your bid is going to be treated as a $90,000 bid and theirs is going to be treated as a $100,000 bid, even though you both bid $100,000. You will get the contract because of that adjustment. And the reason we do that, and I'm going to get into hub zones in a second, you'll see why. You can be on the SDB for 3 years. Okay? You got to submit your application to Washington. They'll review it. They have a certain time frame they have to respond. If you're an 8A firm, you're automatically considered an SDB. And the certification address is here in Washington. Again, that is in the resource guide, smallbusiness3.com. All this information is, so just write that website down, smallbusiness3.com. That's where you can get the resource guide. It has all this information in it. We're going to talk about hub zones. Hub zones are historically underutilized business zones. Now, these zones are established primarily by the Department of Census, Department of Labor, and HUD. And essentially what they're looking at is what is the median income in that area, what is the average unemployment in that area. And if you've got low income and high unemployment, that area is going to be determined to be a hub zone. And what we try to do is encourage businesses to operate in a hub zone and hire people from a hub zone. Now, they must be 100% owned and controlled by U.S. citizens, and 35% of their employees must reside in the hub zone. It doesn't have to be the same hub zone that the business is in. It can be outside that area. For instance, if they had the business here in Riviera Beach and they hired somebody from Indian River County and they've lived in a hub zone in Indian River County, that meets the qualifications. So if you've got 100 employees, 35 of them have to reside in a hub zone. And the only way you do that is when you go to our website, SBA.gov, click on hub zones, and you can enter the zip code of your employee or your business, and it will tell you whether you're in a hub zone or not. Now, some of those are currently under review and will probably be changed November 1st, is it, Jerry? November 1st, we'll have a change. You have to be hub zone certified. So again, you're going to have to do some more paperwork and get SBA to do it. If you're declined, you've got to wait a year. I don't know who came up with that, but that's not my job. When we talk about government contracting, we talk about procurement methods. The SBA can use a set-aside award, whereas we know this business, it's an 8A contractor in a hub zone, it's minority-owned, it's woman-owned, it meets all these criteria. We can just give that contract to them. We can do what sole source awards, where we let 2 or 3 firms in that same area bid on it. Or we can say, well, you got to bid and you bid against everybody else and do the best shot you can. Now, let me caution you. If you're dealing with Palm Beach County and you call me up and say, hey, they didn't treat me fair in the bid, my answer is going to be, I'm sorry, I can't help you, because I don't have any control over Palm Beach County. What I will say is that I know on occasion the county has said you've got to be able to get a certain bond for a certain amount. And my response to that person was, go find out who the bidder is. If you can't get that bond but can get a portion of that amount, go to that successful bidder and say, hey, can I do a part of that contract? I can get a bond for $250. I know it's required $1 million, but I can get $250,000, and I think I can fulfill part of that contract. Go to the guy and ask him. What's he going to say? What's the worst he can say to you? No. That's right.